All right, thanks everyone for your time. We're doing a series of webinars at Chiratae as a follow-up to our consumer tech report. This one's focused on gaming. We have a panel today with entrepreneurs and investors from the gaming sector, largely focused in India. We'd like to welcome Raj, Rathi, and Dev, Principal and Managing Director of Dream Capital, respectively. Aman Satija, Founder CEO of BuyStars, Saurabh Gupta, the Founder CEO of Tamasha Live, and Anoop Menon, Principal and Head of Consumertech, Chiratae Ventures. Thanks for your time. We appreciate you taking the time to come onto this platform to share your views. We have a lot to discuss, so let me dive right in. First up, I'd like to ask Anoop to talk about the gaming sector that was covered in the report and what we tried to do as part of that, and a couple of quick takeaways before we kickstart a few questions and answers.
Sure, Saketh, and thanks a lot again for all the participants who joined us on this panel, right? So, as Saketh mentioned, I think in April end is when Chiratae launched its first consumer tech report. And amongst the emerging sectoral themes, we had deep dived into gaming as a specific focus area in the report itself. The report went on to obviously set the context in terms of the different types of gaming genres, trying to see what kind of startups have already done, or come up with new innovations in those spaces. Looked at the value chain of, developers, distributors, the online, the SaaS tools which enable some of this, the gaming, and then looked at the opportunities in each of these spaces, right? And one of the areas, obviously, we sort of deep dived into was in this entire space of real money gaming, a bit on cloud gaming, esports, and also the play to earn games. Some of the opportunities which we really believe will set the sector on fire is obviously the adoption of vernacular language content, also significantly spanning up, increasing significantly on the internet. And as and when the gaming sector is sort of positioned to capture that audience, we believe that the monetization abilities of the sector, as well as the engagement levels of the users, which today, though India has a very strong and large gaming user base, from an engagement perspective, it can do far better, and monetization levels as well. So that's broadly the lay of land that we sort of put out, and in a sector which we is almost doubling almost every 2.5 years, and that's been the trend that we have also observed and projected for a market up to about $2 billion up to 2023. So yes, so that's what the report deep dives into, Saurabh.
All right, thanks for that. Maybe I can go to Dev and Raj for this. Dream 11 is a giant. Dream 11 is synonymous with fantasy sports in India. You've been a category creator, but I'm sure you also think about innovation. Despite being number one in your category, or maybe because you're number one in the category, right? How important is innovation at this stage in Dream 11, in Dream Sports? And what are some of the newer genres within gaming that the company will focus on going forward?
Yeah, Saketh, no, you're right. I think we take innovation very seriously. We think that it's important in many ways to kind of cannibalize yourself, otherwise somebody else will, regardless of how big you are as a company. And we're still on our journey of scaling. The fantasy sports business and Dream 11 is growing very nicely, very profitably. Some of our numbers are public, so I don't need to get into that. But the rationale behind Dream Capital is to see how can we leverage the advantage that we have in terms of 140 million plus registered users, and give those users more interesting things where they can spend time and hopefully money, right? And for us, obviously, sports comes first, because we see ourselves as sports enthusiasts and fans first, who built a gaming business on top of that. So sports, we initially started by saying what are the intersections between sports and gaming other than Dream 11? And as you see, we've taken some bets in that space. And then we're looking at broader gaming. And we believe that obviously India is going through a series of changes, right? When we started Green Capital, there used to be PUBG that dominated, and then it went away, and Free Fire came in terms of mid-core gaming. Now they're not here. BGMI has taken a seat again, but it's all borrowed formats of battle royale, which our users are liking. But it's one format that's proven so far. There's either Dream 11 or imported, formats that our users are showing love for, and we think that among the 440 million, there'll be different innovations required for different users. It could be sports content that we invested in, and it could be fintech, or it could be a bunch of different things. But when it comes to gaming, to answer your question specifically, we're looking at multiple genres right now. It starts with sports gaming. We acquired a sports gaming studio. We think there's plenty of opportunity in that space. Yeah, even and strategy gaming, card games, everything's on the table. So Dream Capital is looking at all. But innovation is very important for us. It's more option value rather than anything else. But why not?
Got it. Got it. I'll just get back to you on a few questions, follow-up questions on some of these
Sure,
sectors that you
sure.
spoke about. I'll go to Aman next. Aman, we were trying to understand from gaming entrepreneurs what is it that we can offer to them, what is it that they'd want to understand from us. And you've worked for several years in the gaming industry and have seen multiple companies grow. What are a few critical elements for building a successful gaming business, especially in some of the genres like fantasy sports that you worked in?
Sure. So I'll be very specific to gaming, fantasy, and real money gaming here. And what does it take to build great businesses? And what I've seen overall. See, we all try to be very innovative with our gameplay and try to do newer things, try to acquire customers and all of these things. But at the heart of it, right, what stays and why users keep coming to a platform and what makes your business successful eventually is actually two things. Does your business have a good retention rate and a good ARPU? Those are two very, very important factors in my opinion. So the bottom line here is that if a user comes onto your platform, do they want to come back again and again and again, right? The number of users acquired, how many of them are coming back to play on the 7th day, on the 30th day, and so on and so forth. Now, that's a metric you're going to chase, but what causes this retention and why do people come back again and again to play on a real money gaming platform? So the underlying theme, many factors here, the quality of the game, the engagement, chances of winning, liquidity which you're providing. At the heart of all of this, right? I would just, if we were to pinpoint one factor why a user comes and tries to play with you, is the amount of trust a platform is able to build in front of the user, right? The amount of transparency, trust, and simplicity of the game. Now, those are important factors why users come in, find it easy to play, understand, and then if you're able to cut through to the user, build that amount of trust, the user keeps coming again and again and again. There is a lot of data and technology involved, frankly. If we look at the types of games which are there, so if you look at the likes of Candy Crush, etc., there is graphics, engagement, and all of those things. With real money games, at the heart of it is a lot of data. And how do users keep coming back? What are the kind of trends? What do they like? So there are many, many A/B test experiments which you do, and eventually it's kind of a one-on-one experience which you provide to the user, which they eventually like and love on your platform. And this is what makes real money games really, really deep rooted with data and interesting for the user.
Got it. Well, thanks for that. Saurabh, casual gaming as a genre has picked up immensely in India over the last couple of years. What has contributed to this growth? Also, what's the TG of the customer you target, and what are the gaming genres that this particular customer set that you target is interested in?
I think not just casual gaming, but overall gaming sector has scaled up really well in the last few years. I would say, internet penetration in smaller towns has been a major contributor in bringing new set of user base, in the ecosystem. Initially, the gaming was very much restricted to, people with high-end devices and laptops and things like that. So I think gaming has become a mass form of entertainment consumption in the recent years. Talking about casual gaming, I think casual gaming. Most of the game formats that have been really successful are the game formats that have already been there, in India. So let's say Ludo is one of the most popular game, right? Currently in India, there are more than 100 million monthly active users, in apps like Ludo King. These are the games where the learning curve is very less. People have played these kind of game formats, since the childhood. So penetrating through these kind of game formats has been easier, and these formats have been really, really successful. And have been mostly focused on tier 2, tier 3 user base. And then there are companies like Dream11 who have disrupted by actually educating people a particular game format for years and building that kind of moat in the space, right? And specifically talking about what kind of target user base that we are looking at. So we are looking at the emerging user base from tier 2, tier 3 down. So there's a good thing about these users is that you get a lot of users, right? But monetization is a bit tricky. But yeah, this is our core focus, and these are the users of the future. So we are focused on majorly tier 2, tier 3 user base, for Tamasha.
Very interesting. I think it's right. Gaming was one of the biggest beneficiaries of the pandemic, including genres like the ones you're targeting. Maybe I'll go back to Dev and Raj for this. From the point of view of Dream11, and Dream Capital, are there key changes that you've seen in the gaming ecosystem in India and globally post the pandemic? And how do you view these changes overall?
I mean, I'll start. Raj can chime in, but I think that our changes have been positive. I know that certain behaviors have changed for users, where people are spending less time at home. They want to get out. They're gaming less. You're seeing that in a lot of other remote businesses as well. I don't know where Zoom's valuation is now. I haven't checked recently, but for us, it's been positive, right? Because during the pandemic, there was a lot of disruption in the sporting calendar. We still did really well because we sponsored the IPL in 2020 during the pandemic. But for us, we've seen the sporting calendar get stabilized, on top of which a lot of energy in people engaging with the IPL. The last year's IPL was interrupted. Nobody likes a tournament being broken into two. I think so I think we're definitely benefiting from the research from that point of view. In terms of user behavior, I think it's from a Dream Capital point of view, it's good, right? I mean, I'm sure Anoop and you will also corroborate this. There's no point getting into a company off of a rich multiple, off of artificial surges. It's great that things are getting priced at least closer to, and I don't think they're still priced correctly, but closer to fundamentals. And from a deployment point of view, I think it's post pandemic, it's a much better time for Dream Capital, where we can invest for the longer term, and at least the opportunistic pitches go out the door. Gaming behavior, I think there are other people in the room who can comment, and they know better than us.
Yeah. Now, the one thing I'd add, Saketh, as they was mentioning, which was true for any digital business, the funnel got widened. I think the way funnel has been retained is by creating locally relevant content. Sports, cricket, fantasy in India has been, the anchor for a format in gaming. And as Dream Capital, we are extremely focused in getting them more experiences, be it in the world of fantasy or sports-related gaming or relevant gaming content in general. And that's the broader thesis that we operate in, but also what we see in the marketplace. The other interesting thing is the gaming-related talent in India has widened quite a bit. So what wasn't the phenomena 3, 4, 5 years ago is a more tangible phenomena today, probably accelerated by the fact that the gaming content consumption during COVID went up, which resulted in just capital flowing in that direction as well.
Absolutely. Building on top of the Indian consumer a little bit, right, and the Indian user. Aman, what are the characteristics of the Indian consumer who's playing fantasy sports, and how is BuyStars trying to provide something different to this TG?
Sure. See, first thing first, who's the TG? I think it is very similar to what Saurabh has said, and I would possibly try to summarize it again. That see, cricket and sports go very very deep, frankly, and when we look at it, it goes very deep into tier two, tier three. So these sports and fandom it's not curtailed to only metros or let's say delivery systems. This is because when you have internet, it just goes and spreads over. You now have good mobile internet overall. So what has really helped is that fandom was already there. You now have mobile phones and internet coming and going into into deep into India, into tier two, tier three, and so on and so forth. You don't need any delivery systems like e-commerce. So this has possibly penetrated really well, and I would say penetrated deeper into the tier two, tier three more than e-commerce as well, because you don't need any logistics or anything of that sort. It's just very simple digital complete play, right? So fandom, internet, and then simplicity of the game is very important in all of this, right? And this is what Saurabh was also trying to say, that things which people are able to relate to, Ludo, Carom, Pool, all of these things, which you know from your childhood or some time. And similar things have happened with fantasy also. If you look at it, it's a really simple game at the heart of it, and that is the reason why it has been adopted really well. So while we're trying to innovate quite a lot, bring newer facets to the game, build in newer elements of trust, let's say using blockchain, etc., the heart of it, want to create a game which is really simple, is innovative, and has more legs to it than what the current gaming is offering. But again, something which see all of these newer technologies, Web3, etc., are coming in, but and there's going to be a lot of debate about how do you utilize these technologies into newer games, how do you immerse all of these together and still keep it simple for the user, for them to understand. They don't have to connect to their wallets, put in their API keys, and etc., to plug wallets in. So we're trying to create an experience which has a lot of utility with Web3 coming in, and creates something which creates a very emerging gaming experience, engaging gaming experience, sorry. So an extremely engaging gaming experience in the fantasy space itself.
Got it. Got it. Saurabh, this one's for you. Moving on to an emerging aspect of the Indian consumer, the acts of being creators online. Right? You've effectively leveraged creators in your gameplay. Can you elaborate on your creator strategy? Who are your creators, and why are they on Tamasha? And what are your plans to engage some of these creators on Tamasha?
So the creator has been one of our core focus center since we started Tamasha, and has helped us in reaching the kind of growth that we are at today, right? The kind of creators that we have on Tamasha are very different from a typical influencer who is there on Instagram and other platforms. So like more than 90% of our creators are player turned creators, and these are the people who have small micro communities, right? So let's say on every WhatsApp group, on every like if you use WhatsApp, there is always someone who creates or manage those social WhatsApp groups within your friends or families, right? So a lot of people are social and they have a good community base, in the network, right? And that is what we have leveraged. So a lot of our creators are micro creators, micro influencers. They bring 70-80 people from their community, and they monetize through them, right? So typically the role of a creator is on a platform is to firstly help in acquisition, right? And then converting a user into a monetizable user, and then retain them through community content, right? So that's the role which a creator has, and on each and every aspect we help them or give them the value of their effort, right? Through and help them monetize, right? So comparing from a typical social platform where you have to build millions of users of following, and then eventually start monetizing and creating a decent monetization on Tamasha, even with a very small community of users, you can create a decent monetization because people play real money in these communities, and they put in a lot of money, right? So even with a small user base or a small community, you can have a decent monetization, right? So that's what our creators have been doing. So at one point we were not supporting our creators, or they were building their own community, through their organic reach. But recently we have started helping them in building their communities further by providing them liquidity of users, right? So that's how we have started supporting our creators further in their journey to become huge gaming creators, right? So yeah.
Got it. Got it. Understood. Moving on to emerging areas of gaming. I'll start with Dream Capital. Dream Capital has done a tremendous job in enabling early stage startups by providing capital and deep tactical insights. Dev and Raj, what's your strategy at Dream Capital when you look at emerging areas? You alluded to that. Maybe you can double click on that if you want to. And specifically, what kind of startups do you look for to invest into?
Good.
Yeah, so on the, of course, I would say there are different dimensions of, what areas are emerging. Some of it, Aman and Saurabh touched on as well, genres that are simple, but, we see that as one end of the paradigm, and then the other end, things that are getting enabled because of the advent of Web3, right? So, and then there is a whole set of spectrums, a whole set of dimensions in between the spectrum, right? So what I mean by that is, with Web3, there comes the opportunity to own, collect, and then build utilities on top of it, which can lend itself to versions of fantasy, which can lend itself to versions of strategy games and whatnot. Urario was our bet into that part of the universe. Within, I would say, the more sports gaming paradigm, we have our bet with Dream Game Studios. And, within the Dream Capital fold, we continue to look for opportunities, be it in casual gaming, be it in, role-play gaming genres, or, in mid-core. So content that is relevant today, maybe in parts of the world, but can become relevant for Indian audiences. Content that can be leveraged with our 140 million plus users. That's, at the end of the day, that's the core hypothesis. And we have seen over time, of course, different genres have become relevant for India. And as our kind of broader 400 million users grow to 700 million users in the next few years, we feel there will be a more secular growth across these different verticals. But to kind of summarize it all, we are not limiting ourselves in areas that we are focusing on. Our core is sports and sports-related gaming, but we are also aware that our users want kind of the broader gaming menu set, if you may, and we look to deliver on that as well.
And I think Raj and I, with our entire team, is cognizant of the fact that you can't plan for innovation, which is why we've set up a CVC where entrepreneurs can come and tell us what they're building, and hopefully we can back their dreams, to no pun intended, to a certain extent. So we're hoping that there will be India-specific formats that come through now that there are global gaming studios that have set up back offices in India. There is talent coming through. We're happy to listen and understand, where users are spending time. Clearly we don't know it all.
Fascinating. Great. Aman, you are working in, albeit early, you are working in Web3 gaming. What are the practical elements one must keep in mind while building a Web3 game for Indian audiences? Right? You alluded to that a little bit. And as a follow-up to that, how do you see NFTs adding value to gameplay?
See, it's very early today to pinpoint and say that this is what you need to do and this is what you don't need to do, right? So I think all of us are learning today quite a lot. Everybody has a thesis that this is going to work, this is not going to work. I'll possibly put forward my thesis here that how this space is going to evolve over the next few years. So first thing first here is that I think the belief that in the next 3 to 5 years, especially real money gaming space is going to leverage blockchain quite a lot, possibly be on blockchain quite a lot, is what we believe that this is going to happen. Because see, these are things, and I've spoken about user trust. Blockchain as a technology just brings in user trust or takes it to a different dimension altogether. So there's going to be a technology which games are going to be built on in the future. Now, the with the trust element being covered, I think while people are trying to do Web3, etc., one of the things which one needs to take care of, especially with the Indian audiences, especially we going into tier 2, tier 3, is that the game still needs to remain simple. It cannot be, and I touched upon this in the last question itself, that it cannot be that it becomes an extremely difficult task for somebody who just has a mobile connection, etc., to then say that this is going to be the gas fee from on on ramping, then something else, then there are going to be two gas fees, and explaining all of those things over to the person. Now, these things have to happen in a much simpler manner. If you're going to take it mass, and our fantasy sports has succeeded when it has gone mass, right? So that simplicity still needs to stay. Um, and the last piece is that what we see, at least, and this is our belief, and I think a lot of focus is going on the rarity of NFTs, that because they're rare, they're going to be good and all of that, and expensive and in value and in demand. I think there has to be a lot of emphasis which has to be put in that what is the utility, and how do these things come and create engagement within the game. If that is not done, frankly, we're talking about gaming at the end of it, and it has to stay the game, right? And it's going to be a game if it is engaging. You touched upon the NFT piece a little bit, that how does that add value to gaming, etc., etc. Um, I think huge scope, and I'll touch upon fantasy space itself. Many things, right? So if you look at fantasy space or any real money gaming space today, there is no progression within the game. So all our real money games are not progression linked at all. NFTs could come in and create that layer of progression, that a user is progressing with those NFTs within the game. If you look at the engagement of these casual games like Candy Crush and all of these, you have engagement levels, you have these progression levels in which you're going up as you progress with the game. Fantasy does not have that. NFTs could come in and bring in a lot of that. So many such things and many dimensions which can be explored with the newer technology.
Got it. Yeah. Maybe I'll take 5 minutes to just touch upon operational aspects of gaming companies, especially at the early stage. Right? Saurabh, monetization is usually considered a tricky part to crack when a gaming company is targeting tier 2, tier 3 non metro users, which is a sizable part of your user base. It is a very necessary transition to target some of these users in order for our gaming ecosystem to grow. But how do you think about monetization?
I think, yeah, monetizing tier 2, tier 3 user is actually very tricky because tier 2, tier 3 users, they are value for money users, right? If you want to spend them 5 rupees, they want to see that what kind of value that they are getting, right? They don't spend a lot on content. They don't spend a lot, in just tipping and things like that. So those models have not yet scaled that well, right? So and that's why one of the route that we took while building this social network of gaming is to kickstart our monetization from real money gaming, right? Because there people see the value that they get from spending that 5 rupees or 50 rupees, right? There is a possibility of winning a lot more, right? So that is something which we have done. We have been monetizable business from day one. But if you talk about other aspects of monetizing, I think definitely gaming is monetizing real, even casual games is very tricky because typically gaming studios work on a lot on creativity, right? They create tens of games, and one of them they work out those kind of games. They work and they scale up that game, right? So it's a bit difficult to scale up creativity driven businesses. That's why a lot of innovation is needed in the business processes and business models, right? Right now, most of the gaming companies that have become huge in India, Dream 11 is one of them that have done innovation in the business processes and model, right? Nazara, they leverage gaming in for kids genre and bringing a lot of popular IPs like Chota Beam and all, and basically combining them with popular game formats, right? So you have to create a strategy, that what works for you and for user base, and bring that kind of innovation in your business model to actually create a sustainable and a profitable business in casual gaming, right?
Right, right. Let me follow that up with a question to Aman. How do you balance engagement, usage, and monetization early on while building a game, right? Does monetization follow engagement, or is there a case to monetize users from day one? How should early stage entrepreneurs think about this when they're building game?
See, all of these factors which you mentioned, engagement, usage, monetization, that kind of, and especially with real money games, and because we're speaking of real money where people put in money to play games, I think all of these factors are intertwined within each other, and all of these are very, very important. I mentioned early on the importance of data and to learn how and what is happening. I'll just give you a very interesting set of data which I was looking at the other day. If a user comes into, and this is our platform data, so I know it, that if a user comes on to play a game, a user who wins the first game versus a user who loses the first game, the difference in retention is 50% over the longer run. So people who win their first game play 50% more than people who lose their first game. Now, it's not that people have finished money, so after losing, so they just stop playing. The importance of all of these experiments now are going to be that we're focusing extremely hard on that. How do you bring that user who's lost back, or why did that person not retain very well onto your platform? So I think, see, thoughts like this are very, very important. Now the user needs to be engaged, and if the user is engaged, they are going to be monetarily involved in a real money game over a longer period of time. So there's no answer to that you focus only on monetization, don't focus on engagement, etc., etc. All of these are very, very closely linked into a chain, and you have to work on all of these things together. Data plays a huge role, and digital companies like ours sit on top of so much data, and while look at all of these things and do A/B tests, etc., etc., just takes you a long way.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, I think the answer is in the data probably. No simple answer there. David, Raj, how do you see the potential market size for the gaming market increasing in India? Right? Like I think Raj had alluded to the 400 million going to 700 million and so on. What are the factors that will contribute to the same in the coming few years? And Anoop, it'd be great if you can address this as well.
Sure. Yeah. So, see, I mean, Saketh, there's a couple of ways to think about it. What enables generally digital consumption, but also spends towards entertainment, spends towards gaming. Macro level speaking, as we get to an economy that can yield, $3,000 on per capita, it just affords itself to be able to have discretionary spends in gaming. That's just macro speaking. So as we are kind of navigating ourselves to an economy of that size, there will be a natural progression of spends available. But also, as I was alluding to, it's also, as much as it is a demand side issue, it's also a supply side issue. As content becomes more local and more relevant for the audiences in India, I think that will unlock some of the pent-up demand as well. We are already, as a consumer set, we are pretty digitally savvy or digitally first, if you may, in many aspects of our lifestyles. So as content, as options, as we saw with Dream 11, when we built it, to be able to scale it to these levels, there is propensity to consume. It just needs to be relevant and in the right bite size.
Yeah, and I think I agree with Raj. Look, 5 years ago, as we said, there was hardly any engagement. I would say 5-6 years ago on fantasy sports or mid-core gaming, right? Those categories themselves, or whatever we know, there's like about 150 million MAUs now across some of these categories, and then you can add on top of that real money gaming in terms of card gaming. You can add on top of that, casual gaming, which gives you MAUs, but maybe not that much IAP revenue. I think the market size is what could be 250-300 million MAUs already, and these guys will graduate, as Raj was saying, in spending across. Maybe the ARPU will increase, and new users will get added on from the emerging markets, as Aman and Saurabh were talking. So we don't have an exact market size for Saketh, but it seems like it will be one of the most exciting gaming markets in the world.
Yeah, right. Thanks, Dev and Raj, I think, for picking that up. I think that's also what the report contextualizes as well, that I think the need for content, I think Raj summarized it well. I think the uh, there needs to be a certain local contextualization, and also probably age-wise, gender-wise contextualization of games as well, in terms of building specific products which then can go more deeper into those TGs, and building out a niche, building out more engagement, more narratives and storylines as well for that. On the Web3 gaming side, we have, I think, the need for richer experiences. I think that is sort of keeping away probably the hardcore gamers away from some of that side of the spectrum. I think we will see that also pulling a lot of the gaming community into those environments, and enriching those experiences. A key driver for this has also been, I think here Aman touched upon the fact that how seamless the transaction capabilities on the platform need to be enabled as well. I think that's a work in progress. We've definitely done much better in the last 18 months or so. But I think if it is the virtual currencies and tokenization and crypto elements which need to come into this space, then I think a seamless way to sort of enable that mode of transactions and experiences need to be facilitated, like how today UPI is completely disrupted commerce to a fair degree, right? So these are sort of I think the and levers which probably can unlock a lot more potential and sort of take the overall market size to significantly higher numbers in the coming 3 to 5 year spectrum.
Great. So we'd like to end the session with one fun question to all of you about the future of gaming. Right? Like we'd like to get maybe a one-line answer from all of you. Maybe we can relook at this webinar a decade down the line and see who's got it right. But our question is one top gaming trend that you believe will play a significant role in shaping the gaming industry in India. Maybe we can start with Saurabh.
I think social gaming is going to be huge. Gaming would evolve not as a just way to entertain and engage, but will become a medium of interaction. Like so, how people have evolved from chats, to video calls. Gaming would be a part of general social interaction. So that's what I feel gaming would be.
Great, Aman.
Yeah, I'll touch upon two things here. One, it's not a trend, it's a technology. I've already mentioned it that in 3 to 5 years, Web3 is a lot of real money games are going to be pivoted and built on Web3. So that is one. The other thing which we really believe on is that the way in sports, especially while sports are going on and you're able to play along, watch along, interact, and all of these things, I think it would add upon a social angle. That I think gaming would become a second screen while the sports are on. So those are the two things we would bank on.
Got it. Raj or Dev, if you wanna.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Aman and Saurabh both, but the broader theme, if I were to put my hand on something, would be just innovation around sports and sports engagement that adds to the overall experience. And not related to that would be just more personalized experiences while for gamers, and the formats can be different, but just personalized experiences is important.
Got it. Anoop?
At Chiratae and Saketh, we love intersections of some of these, sectors. I would love to, and I think what we would love to bank on and probably take some more bets is the intersection of gaming with sort of education and learning, and probably gaming with the creator economy itself. I think some interesting new bets, new startups are, the space is quite wide open. I think can lead to a lot more value unlocking over there.
Great, awesome. That brings us to the end of the session. Thank you very much for taking the time. We really appreciate this. We hope that some of what we discussed today will be useful to our listeners, entrepreneurs, investors, and others who are interested in the gaming ecosystem in India. Thank you very much for joining in.
Thank you, Saketh.
Thanks, Saketh.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.